Hiya. Hope you're doing well here on what's today? August 10th. Oh, I just reminded myself of new release Thursday. Newish release Thursday. I don't know. There are a few of you that seem to be interested in that, and most of you don't. Maybe I'll do it, maybe I won't. But yeah, this is my 100th video. 100. It's here. I've hit it. I didn't think I'd get there until the end of August. That was my original goal. But here I am, August 10th. I still have 3 weeks left in the month and I hit 100. I know I've been pumping them out, man. I know it's been a lot. I just thought, I didn't assume anybody would watch every single video I did. I did not assume that. I just wanted to have enough content out there that would tide the people that do watch my channel over until the end of the year, really. Because my videos aren't little 5 minute clips. I mean, my videos are all pretty much routinely between 15 and 30 minutes apiece. I tried making them all under 20 minutes, and I'm conscious of that sometimes, but there's just so much to say about some of these records I love. I just throw caution to the wind sometimes. I'm like, whatever, I want to make this video 40 minutes, and that's what it's going to be. Most of them, though, have been under 30. I've been able to do that. But thank you, as always. Thank you so much for just being nice and cool. The vast majority of you are so nice and supportive. Your comments are really positive and constructive. I love having debates with you guys when it comes to differing opinions on favorite albums. It's just fun, man. That's what I wanted to create when I did this channel. Because I just don't see I don't see any other people talking about these records I talk about, and not to the length I talk about them. Sometimes you see some of these records talked about, but it's by someone who doesn't know the record, and they're really quick about it, and they shouldn't really be speaking about something they don't have a personal relationship with, in my opinion. And that's what I try to do. And it's been fun, 100 videos. So today I want to talk about an album that I love. I'm not thinking about every video I do think about, to some degree at least, what you guys want to see, or just what the YouTube community wants to see. You know, YouTube is really, excuse me, YouTube's really good about showing us, the content creators, what the trends are. I get to see all kinds of crazy numbers. What people are searching for, other channels that my subscribers are watching, where you guys might be coming from, where my traffic comes from, whether it's Facebook or whatever. They give you all kinds of information. So I do try to take that into account to some degree. Today, I'm just doing an unabashed review and discussion of one of my favorite albums of all time. It's my 100th video, and I want to talk about what I want to talk about, which means I'll probably have 4 viewers of this video, but whatever. I love this record, and I want to talk about it. It's absolutely, without a doubt, in my top 20 albums of all time, period. Of any genre, of any decade, of any era. It is one of my favorite albums. I return to this album so much, and I love it. So I wanted to talk about it. But again, thank you guys. Honestly, I never really thought that this channel would turn into much at all. So the fact that I'm hovering around 1,000 subscribers right now is amazing to me. I did have some goals when I started doing these videos back in late June. I did set some goals for myself, and I was able to hit those already. All my goals predicated around the end of August. I wanted to hit all these goals by then. And I still have 3 weeks to go. There are a few goals that I didn't hit. I'm a little disappointed with myself in that, and that's my fault. It's nobody else's fault. I'm not blaming anybody. It's my fault. But I also think that YouTube just isn't really set up for people like myself. You know what I mean? And I'm not faulting YouTube in any way. I love YouTube, actually. As much as I passionately despise social media, I think YouTube is a very great outlet for people having opinions. I love YouTube. And for the most part, they just take a step back. They let you do your thing. As long as you're not promoting hate speech and being a total dick, they're just like, they're arm's length. They're like, go ahead. people want to watch you and support you and subscribe, then that's cool. They let you just get on with business. And I really respect them for that. There are very few platforms out there that do this. Even other social media platforms like Facebook and Twitter or X, whatever the hell it's called now, I don't use those. I probably could build my audience, but I don't like supporting those companies. I think they're shit and I want nothing to do with them. I do like Instagram. I think Instagram is slightly better, but Facebook, Twitter, nah, I will never use those. I know that they can help you grow your audience. I don't care. I think the stuff that they do behind the scenes and the way they treat their people and their employees and the way they condescend the mass public is just reprehensible, and I don't want anything to do with it. So I'm never using those. YouTube that lets me do my thing. I have to respect them for that. They're not going to let anybody just do whatever they want. Again, they're pretty firm about their stance on people who want to promote hate and anger and stuff like that. There's no room for that, and I support that. YouTube, for the most part, they're just like, do what you want to do, dude. I really respect that. And they if you do well enough, they give you a chance to monetize and make a few bucks. I still haven't made 1 cent, and I don't know that I ever will. That was one of my goals too, to get to a point where I could, at least where I could see if I could build it from that point on. But I think I'm way far away from actually making any kind of scratch when it comes to this channel. I don't know that I'll ever get there. And it doesn't matter. I'll keep doing this channel. And that's something else I wanted to say. I'm not going anywhere. I've gotten a couple of really kind responses from you guys talking about when I go away, you guys are going to miss my videos. Thanks a lot, man. I definitely never thought that I'd be wanting people who wanted more videos. I never thought that would happen. I'm not going anywhere. I just have to make a living. You know what I mean? I'm lucky enough to have my summers off, and so I have some more time to do these videos. But in a couple weeks, I got to go back to work, man. So I wish I could have that lifestyle where I could afford to have more time to do these videos, but I just can't. And that was part of my goal setting this year. I thought, man, if I could get to a point with YouTube where I might be able to at least partially fund what I'm doing here on YouTube, that would be cool. But I'm not there, and I don't know that I'll ever get there. YouTube is just set up for a certain type of viewer and a certain type of content creator. YouTube is very much garbage in, garbage out. That George Carlin put that best when he said garbage in, garbage out. YouTube is all about quantity. They want you to put out a lot of videos and really not have, it's not about what you have to say. It's not about the depth or the quality of what you're saying. It's just about the quantity. And can you have flashy edits? And can you do tricky camera movements and quick zoom ins and zoom outs? And that's what it's about. That's what people want to see. And I'm not doing that shit. My videos demand that you have an attention span. My videos demand you have some quotient of intelligence. And if you don't have those things, then you're not going to enjoy my channel. And YouTube, like any other medium out there, is for the low-hanging fruit for the most part. My goal was to pluck out the people who actually get it, who want to have a deeper conversation about these albums. And we're in the minority. My subscribers, my beloved subscribers, we're in the minority. But that's why I appreciate you guys. I wanted to find you, and I'm glad you're here. Seriously, thank you so much for taking the time to subscribe and supporting an idea. You're not so much supporting me at all, other than you're supporting an idea that I'm trying to get out. And that's what my channel is really about, is trying to support ideas, independent thought. That is what I'm trying to impart more than anything. Because independent thought is going to the wayside, man. We are quickly, rapidly ascending this disturbing ladder of very linear thought in our society. And it concerns me. And I think if I can do anything to combat that, if it means I have to use the powers that be and have a YouTube channel, I'll do it. You have to use those methods to try to reach people. And I'm glad that I've reached you. So thanks, honestly, I appreciate it. So I've been rambling for 10 minutes now, and you guys are fast asleep. What? I don't blame you. I'd fall asleep too. But I just wanted to thank you. I don't care if you're bored. I wanted to take a moment to really show my appreciation for you guys. And I'm not going anywhere. The videos will continue. Just in a couple weeks, I gotta go take care of business, man. I gotta pay my bills. You know what I'm saying? These things have to happen. Maybe it would be awesome someday to have enough subscribers where I could make a little bit of scratch so I could support the idea of doing more of these videos. But at the end of the day, you gotta do what helps you pay your bills, man. And paying bills is not fucking easy. You all know this. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. Paying bills, every little bill, is tough right now. I get it. I'm definitely not buying as many records. I mean, my record buying habits have really died down. And as you know, I don't need any more fucking records anyway. I've got enough. Here's another one. This is my 100th video. I want to make a special video about a special record that I think is very special. How about all those specials? How many specials could you possibly have? Right here. This is one of my all-time favorite albums. Period. I have an intense love affair with this record. I have since the day it came out, which is now 28 years ago. This is a record that I constantly return to. I was just listening to it this week. I probably pull this out 7 or 8 times a year and have since, well, I listened to it much more back in the 90s. I have every stitch of this album memorized, committed to my memory banks, and I still can't get enough of it. This LFO, and by the way, this is Advance. Obviously, you saw that in the title, the video title. This is LFO's Advance. In my opinion, LFO is the flagship group for Warp. It's not Aphex Twin. It's not Autechre. It's not Luke Vibert. It's not Plaid. It's not Black Dog. It is LFO. This was the identity of Warp for a long time. And I discussed this a little bit in the Aphex Twin and Black Dog videos, but I don't know what the fuck Warp's identity is now. I have no clue what it is. They just kind of seem to sign any band that comes along now. There's really no uniformity to the label anymore. Their mail order is an embarrassing joke. Warp has really taken a shit in recent years. They still have Aphex and Autechre and those bands that built the label, and they still exist, and they're the ones that are the tent poles for that label. They support it. Without those bands, I don't know what Warp would be. They'd just be another label. And sadly, that's kind of what they've become anyway. Back in the 90s, though, this was not just another label. Every fucking thing that came out on this label in the 90s was hugely important. Intensely important. This is Warp's greatest record for me. If I could only pick one record on the entire label, and think about everything that's on the label, Boards of Canada, all the artists I just mentioned, if I had to pick one, it would be this. This is a beautiful piece of music. One of the most starting. I'm trying to say startling. The originality is startling. Sorry, I can't say that fucking word. It is, you are taken aback with the originality of this album. And I will learn how to speak here in a minute. I'm at a loss for words when it comes to Advance. This record was so ahead of its time. I think it still is in a lot of ways. And one of their first releases. The hugeness of that record helped build this label. Then Frequencies came out and it helped it even further. They did a number of remixes, and then this came out in 1995. The Tied Up single came out in 94, the year before that. I'll talk about that in a minute. But this dropped in 95, and to this day, I think it is the single greatest moment on the entire label. Obviously, the single best thing that LFO ever did. And it's important to note that it says LFO, but this is pretty much Mark Bell by himself. G-Man, I don't know if they had differences. I'm assuming they had differences of opinion. G-Man went on to just make straight up techno music, which is fantastic. I talked about G-Man in one of my Wire videos, specifically in the First Letter video. If you're interested in watching that, I talk about G-Man. But this is pretty much Mark Bell solo, as was the third album, Sheath. That was all Mark Bell. He kept going by LFO. This is an amazing record. Part of why I love this record was the stark contrast to Frequencies. Frequencies was a warehouse record. It was a rave album. 4-4 beats, big, huge bass lines, dance music. But intensely underground dance music. Back when dance music was still underground. There's nothing underground about it anymore. Try to put yourself in a headspace back when raves were illegal. You didn't even know where raves were going to be the night of the rave. Back then, you'd learn of a rave by a little flyer, and you'd get a flyer and you'd read it. Wouldn't even have the location on it. Wouldn't have the time. Nothing. It would just say, call this phone number at 7 p.m. on this date. And it would be the day of the party, the rave. And you would dial that number, and there would be a voice message saying, okay, here's what you do. You go down this road and you take this freeway and you drive 20 miles down this tiny little gravel road, and the rave would be out in the middle of nowhere. That's what raves were now. It's funny now, I listen to people who are going to raves now and they're buying tickets at Ticketmaster and shit. Like, that's not a rave. No. A rave was about the attitude. It was about the secrecy. It was about the danger. And this band, LFO, were at the heart of all of that. They were in the middle of all that rave culture. And Frequencies was a huge album. I'll do a video on Frequencies. It's coming. That album is brilliant in itself. But what I'm getting at is part of what made this record what it is how different it was from Frequencies. LFO is known to be, it stands for low frequency oscillation, by the way, and they had it on Frequencies. It was, the bass was so low that it didn't register on a lot of stereos. It was that deep and low. It was really low. And bowel quaking. If you heard that early LFO shit on a big system that was capable of handling the bass, your teeth would be rattling. It was amazing. It was the best thing ever. You could literally feel it in your bones. I think a lot of people just expected Frequencies Part 2, but this came. Advance. This was a supremely complicated, intricate electronic music. Mark Bell was showing that he had so much more up his sleeve than just 4-to-the-floor warehouse beats. You don't get any of that here. You do get a couple of techno tracks, nothing like what you hear on Frequencies. This is some extremely warm, human yet alien electronics going on here. It's impossible to define. This album had a huge effect on the industry too. People like Bjork, this is one of her all-time favorite records too, and she actually lifted a song from this album for her own single. I think it was called I Go Humble, right? She did a B-side called I Go Humble. It was on the Isabel single, if I'm not mistaken. I love Bjork. Those first 3 albums in particular, up through Homogenic, which, by the way, produced by Mark Bell, Homogenic. But there's a song on here called Shove Piggy Shove, and she just took that song and sang over it and used it as a B-side. It was reverberating throughout the industry with the bigger names. And LFO remixed Bjork, and Bjork helped these guys for sure, helped Mark Bell for sure. LFO, Mark Bell remixed Radiohead. It was music that just was totally arresting. You had to stop and listen to this. And that's what happens to me every time I hear this. I have to stop and listen to the whole thing. You can't just listen to one song. The approach and creativity and originality with this album is second to none. As I love electronic music. And out of all of the videos I've done on my YouTube channel, this is my favorite. Compared to everything else I've talked about, this is the best record so far. That's why I wanted to talk about this on my 100th video. I'm sure that doesn't mean much to anybody else, but it means a lot to me. I adore this album. It's perfect. You all have those albums in your life that you think are perfect, and there are very few that do it. This is one of those for me. Not a bad second on here. I'm not going to try to describe it and be glib and trivial and try to assign tags to this album. I'm just not going to do it. All I will say is if you like music that doesn't sound like anything else in your life that you've ever heard, you will listen to Advance. Beautiful stuff. It's got the full spectrum of moods on here. It's such a fun album. It just validates your right to be alive when you listen to this. I feel more alive every time I drop the needle down on this record. And I was listening to this album in my car yesterday too. I've got a pretty sick ass stereo in my car. It's just a new element now. Listening to this in a really beautiful, with a really beautiful stereo in my car, cruising down the street, you lose yourself. You don't want to lose yourself when you're driving. I will say that. I'm not trying to promote that you crash into a school bus and sacrifice the rest of your life for an album. But man, it's easy to get lost with what's going on here. Do me a favor and listen to this. If you're watching this video, take the time to let this album wash over you. It is brilliant. Let me show the inner sleeves. Really nice press. Another thing that Warp usually does pretty well, in stark contrast to their customer service with Bleep and their general cater of signings that they've made in recent years, which has not been stellar. Their pressings are always pretty good. And back in the 90s, their pressings were always good and unique. Designers Republic did these. I've talked about Designers Republic before. It's LP1. And, yeah. There's 3 tracks on each side, 12 tracks total. Really nice presentation here, I think, with the labels and the inner sleeves and the sleeve itself, and then the music. Yeah, Gez Varley took off. He didn't. To this day, I'm not quite sure what the differences were there. I'm thinking maybe G-Man wanted to make more just straight up techno music, and Mark Bell had other ideas. And man, I'm glad of it, because Mark Bell, yeah, he was on a different planet. I love LFO too, and I mumbled about this a little bit with my Aphex Twin video. But Mark Bell was another one of those hicks, man, like Aphex Twin, just a country boy, unencumbered by the rest of the world and their aspirations and their inspirations and their motivations. Mark Bell had his own sound in his mind. Truly original music from a truly original mind. This music is incomparable. And I think that's key when you're talking about the most life-changing music. These guys they're not busily sitting around listening to what everyone else thinks is cool and what's getting written about and what the fashionista and the writers and the journalists are writing about. To him, his biggest influences were things like Kraftwerk and Depeche Mode and Chicago House and Detroit Techno. He took all these really disparate influences and he made music. It doesn't sound, nothing he ever did really sounds like any of that. Nothing he did sounded like Chicago House. Nothing he did sounded like Depeche Mode so much. He just used those other bands as motivation and inspiration to make his own creation. And that's what this is. He also went on to produce Depeche Mode. He produced Exciter. And musically, that album is great. I wouldn't say the album itself is great. That's when Martin Gore started, his lyrics really started taking a dump. But musically, Exciter is fantastic. There's nothing wrong with it musically. If anything's wrong with Exciter, it's with the songs themselves, really. But production-wise and mix-wise, Mark Bell crushed it. I think Mark Bell's best album that he produced for somebody else is Homogenic for Bjork. That album's legit, man. Fucking awesome stuff. I know you Bjork lovers out there. I love Bjork too. But that album kicks ass the way it does because of Mark Bell. He lowered the gauntlet on that record and he crushed it. I'm going to talk about this single. This is the only single that got released. I could talk forever about remixes that Mark Bell did in this era and other names he recorded as, like Speed Jack and what was the other one? Clark. I could talk about those, and maybe I will someday. And those are great records, one and all. You better believe it. Speed Jack for sure. Check out Surge, by the way. His album that he released is Speed Jack. And Clark. That's on Planet E Records. Carl Craig. The mighty Carl Craig. One of the best electronic producers on the planet. Check that out. I've thought about doing Carl Craig videos, but I just feel like 4 people would watch those. And part of me doesn't care, but part of me kind of does. I want people to watch these videos, you know? If you don't know Carl Craig, do it. Check him out. One of the best. Back to LFO. This is the one single they put out. It's a double 12-inch on Warp. Similar theme, different colors, but you have a similar theme. This is Tied Up. What a song this is. Talk about a song that kicks you in the fucking head. Hard beats going on here. And down tempo too. Just hard hitting, kick you in the teeth type beats. Nasty bass line, beautiful break. A really goofy video. I never thought the video was all that. I thought the video was kind of dumb. But the song, Jesus. What a hard-hitting piece of masterwork this is, man. Tied Up. Yes. And really kind of a perfect single to promote the album. Does it sound like anything else on the album? Nope. That's another beautiful thing about Advance. It has 12 tracks and they all sound completely different from each other, but totally flow perfectly. Perfect album. It's an album that shouldn't have worked. An album that's too good to exist, in my opinion. Here are the labels. You get 4 remixes, all done by Mark Bell himself here. You get an electro version, you get an acid version, you get the album versions, and they're all fucking amazing. And then this is disc 2. This has a remix of Nurture on it. I think that's right. That's right? Yeah. It just says Nurture, which is a track from the first album, but it is a remix. It doesn't state that, but it is. And then it's got a Jason Pierce mix, Spiritualized. I've talked about Spiritualized before. It's got an Electric Mainline remix. Jason Pierce just does one of those pure phase tones remixes on this. It's like a waveform. You Spiritualized fans know what I'm talking about. It's like a 9-minute wall of sound guitar mix. Nothing dancey about it. That makes it even more interesting. Awesome remix, too. I love Spiritualized. Did I show the label? I don't remember if I showed the label. I'm going to do that now. If I did already, so what? Essential piece to have if you have the Advance album. You need to have both. Why would you not have both? That would just be silly. Beautiful single to a beautiful album. Let me take this off. I hate these glares. Here we go. Maybe the most well played album in my collection right here. I wanted my 100 video to be something of a statement about a record that I truly love. This is it. One of my favorites. I've been asked to do top 10 lists before. This would be in there. For my money, music does not get better than this. Of all the videos I have done so far, and it's pretty much 3 years ago to the day that I did my first video. And now that I'm at 100, I wanted to talk about an album that means a lot to me. If albums meant the world to me, this would be the living illustration of that. LFO Advance. Check it out. Even if you end up not liking it, at least you experienced it. I think unless you're a total snob and you only like one genre or one type of music, I can't imagine you wouldn't like at least bits and pieces of this. This is personally one of the greatest moments I have in my collection. I've listened to this many, 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 many times, and I'm sure I'll continue to listen to it many more times. Experience this, love it, cherish it,